Old Natty here. This video is about partial rep training. I came across a video by Dr. Mike Israetel um, where he's saying that partial rep training is just a myth, doesn't work, it's something that should go away. Um, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about it, but also use this as a demonstration of um, the importance of using caution when you listen to experts or people with credentials. Um, Often, folks that uh, get a certification, get a degree, take a course of study, uh, get kind of put in a box. They're given information. There's an expectation upon them to learn what is laid out for them instead of teaching them concepts and helping them think for themselves. Um, and also to support my recommendation of always go back and study the history of a subject. Look for the folks that actually did a thing or had a procedure or came up with some kind of solution, and then they themselves did it and can demonstrate results. Um, Based on what Mike Israetel offers, it tells me his program didn't teach him about partial range of motion training or progressive range of motion training or had him study any kind of history. Because if there's a lost secret of strength training, especially for the natural athletes, it's partial range of motion training. And if you're a natural athlete, you will not achieve your fullest, greatest results without it. It is the thing that built the greats of the pre-steroid era. Paul Anderson used it, Doug Hepburn used it, John Grimmick and all the York Olympic barbell team used it. Bud Jeffries, the only natty I know to have squatted 1,000 pounds, got there using it. So I think one of the biggest things, the misconception that Dr. Israetel has is his idea of partial rep training is something like we see on those gym fail videos where someone just puts on a whole bunch of weight they can't handle, takes it off the pin and barely moves it a couple inches, or maybe they just support it, or maybe it crashes on their chest or they crumble under it. Progressive range of motion training is a legitimate training modality. There are many different variables and techniques like anything else, but there's a specific plan in place and specific goals, and you go in for a specific reason. It's not just this throw a bunch of weight on random thing. And basically, it came about to try to solve or try to maximize results out of the strength curve. Long before Arthur Jones, people recognized that we were stronger in different parts of a movement and weaker. So the idea came about that the segment of the movement that we're weaker controls how much weight we can handle. But that means those segments where we're stronger aren't getting worked to the fullest capacity. So let's figure out ways, let's break the movement down and work those stronger segments with greater resistance so they're challenged also. What this means is you actually get a greater result, not less of a result. So Dr. Israetel's 6 points that he cites as to why partial rep training is a myth, not valid, are pretty much all based around that concept of watching a gym fail video. You know, the kid who maybe can bench 200, he puts on 400, takes off the pins, it crashes on his chest. And it tells me Dr. Israetel hasn't studied the history. Maybe he's not familiar with Paul Anderson. I don't know. But the 6 things he cites are um, you got less motor unit recruitment. Um, you are not building strength through a full range of motion. You got to work stretch under tension. The more distance you work, the greater total volume. Um, Full range of motion. Um, Work with less weight will give you the same growth, but it's safer. And then finally, how do you track it? So, first off, uh, partial range of motion training, progressive range of motion training is not some kind of random thing. You don't just go in the gym and throw a bunch of weight on the bar. It is an advanced training modality. It's something you shouldn't be doing unless you have a good idea of what you're doing or you have someone guiding you. And you go in with a specific plan. So you don't just work one segment. You are going to work full range of motion, but you might well be breaking the movement down to 3 different parts. But at the end of the workout, you have worked full range of motion. So all these supposed negatives built around the idea you're just doing one segment are totally invalid. The truth is you're going to more thoroughly work the muscles involved in that movement because you're going to overload those segments that weren't challenged by the amount of weight you can handle in full range of motion training. And then as far as safety goes, there could well be some level elevation of a slightly greater risk, but that falls back to, do you have the experience? Are you working with someone with the experience? Are you using the proper equipment? Do you have a plan? And then how do you track it or tracking? That's the same thing too. Program design. It's how it's set up. You will know if you know what you're doing or you're working with someone that does know what they're doing. You don't just, again, randomly go in there and take some, whatever you think that day is a super heavy weight for you and see if you can move it a couple inches. There is a plan in place. So I just want to wrap up with this idea of also taking a concept and not being boxed in by what is a particular expert or what some teacher or instructor or what one group says it should be. Take the concept and be able to utilize it in other places. I guarantee you Dr. Mike Israetel uses training modalities or techniques that come from partial rep training. If you do box squats, if you do bench press with the bench paddles that gradually get thicker and thicker, if you've lifted with chains, if you've utilized bands, if you use a power rack, the power rack was invented to allow guys to overload certain segments of a movement. If you got a buddy spotting you and he helps you out on those last couple reps to squeeze out a little bit more, you have applied ideas or concepts that have come out of partial rep training. So, food for thought. Questions, comments, always. Old Natty, I'm out.